Good evening, everyone. Could I please have Pastor Dean Nelson come forward for the opening prayer?
I'm honored as pastor of St. John's Lutheran Church to pray the invocation this evening. Heavenly Father, have mercy on us. Grant us your wisdom and blessing in Los Banos, in this council meeting, and throughout our city. We thank you for all those present who faithfully serve our community. Give guidance and courage to our police and firemen, and for all who protect the peace of our community. We give you thanks for teachers and merchants, for medical workers and farmers and pastors, for all who labor in their crafts, for young and old. Have mercy upon us. Preserve our community from floods and droughts, from crime and fire. Give joy to our souls and lead us in paths of righteousness for your name's sake. Through our crucified and risen Lord Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor. I'd like to call to order the City Council meeting of May 6, 2015. Chief, would you lead us in the flag salute? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Director Maloney, roll call.
Faria, Lewis, Silvera, Stonegrove, Volta.
Here. We have a quorum. Item number 4, consideration of approval of agenda. Do I have a motion? Mrs. Stonegrove?
I move to approve the agenda as submitted.
Mr. Silvera?
I'll second.
Motion by Stonegrove, second by Silvera to approve the agenda as written. All in favor? Aye. Any opposition? None. Carried. Item number 5, public forum. Members of the public may address the City Council members on any item of public interest that is within the jurisdiction of the City Council. This includes agenda and non-agenda items. No action will be taken on non-agenda items, and speakers are limited to a 5-minute presentation. Detailed guidelines are posted on the Council Chamber informational table. When you approach the podium, would you please state your name and city of residence? And if you have a cell phone, please place them on vibrate or turn them off. Do we have anyone who'd like to speak at the public forum?
Good evening, City Council members. My name is Dana Hamea. I'm pretty passionate about this, so let me gather myself here. I'm a 13-year resident of Los Banos. 20 months ago, my life changed when I became a volunteer at the Los Banos Animal Shelter. I had previously served on the Little League board for 4 years, and as an animal lover, I thought this would be a great opportunity for me to hone in on my photography skills and help out with the animals that were coming into the shelter. Statistically, I had been told that for 3 years there were the same numbers, 200 each month, 2,400 each year, no change, same numbers, and I thought that maybe I could come in and make a difference somehow. So now what I want to do is I want to give you a glimpse of what it takes to get one healthy animal, a healthy animal, out of the animal shelter. You intake that animal, you write it in the book. You make a card with its ID, what color it is, if it was stray, if it was dropped off, if it was abandoned, left in the yard. You give it its first shot. You feed it, you water it, you pick up its poop, and hopefully you allow it in the yard for exercise during its 5-day hold, which is sometimes difficult when you're 60 and 70 years old, as many of our volunteers are. You temperament test it with its photo. You upload it to Facebook. You email it to our rescue coordinator. You answer the numerous questions on Facebook, which I manage that too. The calls are then taken about the dog in question by our rescue coordinator. And there are the numerous questions on Facebook are just overwhelming because they go all the way to New York. They go all the way up to Canada. So then no one adopts the dog after its 5-day hold. So then the rescues are notified again, and we beg and we plead. Nobody came for the dog. Do you want it? Yes, we want it. This is one dog. We load it in the crate. We write up its paperwork again. We put the stickers for its shot. We drive it all the way to Turlock. We do not do our work in Los Banos because they do not give us a good enough rate. We get its rabies certificate, its health certificate. We load them back in the car. We drive them back to Los Banos. We put them back in their kennels. We get everything ready again the next morning. One volunteer, she could be 60 and 70 years old, loads the dog into the crate, puts all the paperwork back on it, drives to Santa Nella. We wait for the transport. All this for one dog. Hopefully we can get 6 to 8 on the transport. So I have a question for you. Knowing that there are 200 intakes average each month, anyone have an idea how many left Los Banos, California and went to Utah, Oregon, Washington, Canada last month? Any idea? We got 122 out last month because we busted our butts to get them out. 122. These are just volunteers. These are ladies in their 60s and 70s. We currently have 8 active volunteers. I'm the youngest at 44. We are struggling on a daily basis to clean up the kennels, do adoptions, spay-neuter clinics. The city does it for us 1 time a day, but most of you know a dog poops more than 1 time a day, and cats and kittens as well. It's very difficult to get new volunteers. Something positive that I do want to note is that we have an awesome ACO, Jason Martin. And without him, we wouldn't be successful. He's understanding, he's helpful, he allows us more time when we need it, and he puts up with all of us ladies in there. And we are difficult and demanding. So what I didn't realize 20 months ago when I became a volunteer was that I would quickly be voted in as the secretary and become the lead photographer, which is very taxing on my family. I also didn't realize that I was walking into a place where I would make live or die choices to photograph or not photograph an animal, which meant death. I didn't know my patience with people would be tested on so many levels. My own friends would visit to dump their animals and then ask me to not tell anyone because they were so embarrassed. Or animal abuse would resonate and the impressions would haunt me on a regular basis. The mange, the sores, the bite wounds, the sunken dehydrated eyes, the dog thrown from the car, the smell of death, dying. Kittens dropped off at 2 weeks. We have 5 litters right now in there, and they're 2 to 3 weeks old. And I learned the term compassion fatigue and how it is affecting me and my family. I've become a little desensitized, and I don't like it. I'm not as compassionate, and I'm not as understanding when people walk in and try to tell me their stories as to why they're abandoning their pregnant dog. 20 months ago, I was a little bit better at that. Now I'm a little bit more cynical. I'm going to say this again. Statistically, for 3 years, same numbers, 200 each month, 2,400 a year, for 3 years, right here in Little Los Banos. We have no laws against breeding. You can freely breed your dogs. And I truly believe that people are moving here to breed their animals because we're a hub between LA and San Francisco.
Dana, please don't think me heartless, but we have a 5-minute limit.
Can I go over it?
It's all right, but please, any one of us up here, including Mr. Freer, who's not here tonight, will listen to you on a personal basis. Well, I know, but I have to stop you. Okay, but I want to extend that any one of us on this dais will take as much time as we need to take to hear you out and hear any other ideas that you have or anything that you need. And I can openly speak for everybody up here. Okay? Thank you, Dana. We have a 5-minute limit, and it's very important that we adhere to that 5-minute limit. And it's disheartening to hear about any living creature. So, again, please understand that we have to adhere to that. Okay, is there anyone else who'd like to speak at the public forum? Okay.
Hello, my name is Peggy Logan, and I'm with Second Chance Rescue. Many citizens in Los Banos are passionate about rescuing pets from abuse and unnecessary destruction. Some of them are here tonight to support adoptions of these 5 proposals that I'm here for. The purpose of these proposals is to encourage citizens to spade and neuter their pets. We believe that the city must be involved through regulations to stop animals and overpopulation. Our concern is not only for the animals themselves, but we have seen how pets touch and change our lives for people. Let me highlight my proposals. The first one is a breeder's license. We're probably one of the only areas that don't have a breeder's license. That means, second one is anybody who comes in to reclaim their pet, they should be spayed and neutered before leaving the shelter. Surrender fees. Even Chowchilla has a surrender fee, and they're a smaller town than us, and they do have one. Shelters should have a personal increase. Turlock is open from 10 to 2 every day, so people can pick up their dogs, adoptions, and a regular shelter staff. Cities across the country are adopting these measures as they work to curb pet overpopulation. We ask the council to quickly incorporate these proposals into municipal code. We are hopeful that our goal and the goal of the city will be the same, to save every pet possible and touch those who adopt them with a new best friend. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak at the public forum? Okay, come up and,
Go with Peggy
Thank
and
you.
Dana. I'm Chris Wagner from Los Banos. And I want to reiterate, I have a neighbor who has a litter of chihuahuas at least once a year. Where they go, I don't know. Probably to Dana. We really seriously need to upgrade all of our codes here in Los Banos in regards to the animal control. When I moved here several years ago, I had a neighbor with 4 wolves in their backyard. So I called animal control and was told that there's no law that says you can't have wolves in your backyard, and that I should wait for the city council to update the codes. That was many years ago. Unfortunately, they've moved away and it's not my problem anymore. However, I still see puppies down at Walmart. My next door neighbor's daughter brought one home, and the mother had a fit. And guess where the puppy went? To Dana. Kittens. I'm walking behind Walmart, and these kittens come running up to me. These aren't feral cats, or they would have run from me. They came to me begging and climbing because they're starving. And I took them down to the animal control, and guess what? Closed. There's nobody there. We need regular hours. We need employees that get paid. I mean, thank God for Dana and for Kathy and all the girls. But my God, I know about I was a hospice nurse, and I know about compassion and how it can really ruin your life when you get too involved. The other thing is that the other day, as I was walking along the fairgrounds, I saw a gentleman, a young man, a teenager, walking down the street with a boa constrictor draped across his shoulders. Pretty cool. Until that boa constrictor gets too big to handle and too expensive to feed. And then where does he go? Does he go to Dana? Or does he get turned loose somewhere in our community? I don't think that this is the only boa constrictor in town. So I have read the letter that Peggy sent to the City Council urging you to adopt the procedures that they use in Turlock. This isn't something new to try. We know it works. We know that human nature is such that if you do not make the cost of violating the law more than the cost to follow the law, they will not follow the law. It would be nice if everybody did the right thing, but they don't. So please, I'm asking the City Council to seriously, we're growing, we're building. It's inevitable, and we really need these codes fixed. We need money. There's no reason why a shelter here could not be self-supporting. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who'd like to speak at the public forum?
Well, my name is Joanna Chabrier, and I believe in all these three women that came up here earlier. I work at Pacheco Vet Hospital, so I see it daily. I've been here for 19 years, and I just want to give out some facts that 36,000 dogs and cats are euthanized every day in the United States, which averages about 11 million a year. I believe in spaying and neutering, and all these breeders should be accountable to be licensed, watched, taxed, and I honestly believe that these breeders should stop doing what they're doing, because I've had pets that I have rescued that someone has thrown away. I've never bought an animal in my life, and I refuse to do that. The animals that I have now were throwaways, and I have them. They have a good life. My oldest one is 13 years old, a dog. My cat is 20 years old that was thrown on a bridge in San Francisco. So I highly think that spaying and neutering is the answer, and that these breeders should be accountable for what they're doing. And ditto's on you two women. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, is there anyone else who'd like to speak at the public forum?
Good evening. My name is Julia Souders. I have a rescue in town, Kate's Rescue, and we are so busy. I can't even begin to tell you the amounts of animals that people beg us to take every day. Many of them are puppies. We see them on the lost and found lists all the time, people giving them away for free, and it's just a really bad situation. I really thank you for entertaining this idea. It's really, really important. Thank you very much.
Is there anyone else who'd like to speak at the public forum? Not seeing or hearing anyone, I will now close the public forum, and we will go on to item 6, presentations. And we have 3 this evening. The first one, proclamation recognizing National Day of Prayer. And Pastor Hammond, would you come forward, or any other pastor? Dean, are you still here? Come on up. Are there any other members of the clergy present? Okay. Proclamation recognizing National Day of Prayer. Whereas in God we trust is more than a slogan that appears on our currency. It describes an attitude shared by most of those who founded our great nation. Those who trust God, pray, and the history of our country have been and continue to indelibly marked by people who come to God in prayer. And whereas while prayer is a deeply personal experience, and expression is shaped by different religious convictions, it is a meaningful part of life for many people. And whereas our greatest leaders have always turned to prayer in times of crisis, and many men and women representing every walk of life pray, and the President and the governors of the United States have set aside a special day of prayer and invite all Californians to pray for our nation and state. Now therefore be it proclaimed that the mayor and city council members of the city of Los Banos do hereby proclaim Thursday, May 7th, 2015 as the National Day of Prayer. You going to pray for rain too? Okay, good. I'd like to present you with this proclamation. Thank you. Thank you.
We want to thank the Mayor and City Council for your support, National Day of Prayer. This Thursday, tomorrow will be our 20th National Day of Prayer ceremony that we've held in these council chambers. It's open to the public. We have 9 pastors involved this year, and so we want to invite everyone to come out. It's at noon to 1 o'clock, and then we will have lunch following over across the street at the police annex, and we'd like to invite everyone to come. We pray for our city, all of our departments. departments, public safety, and play for our state and our county and our nation. And so it's a great community event, and we would like to invite everyone to come out tomorrow at noon.
Thank you very much, both of you. Okay. All right. 6B, community guide presentation by the Los Banos Junior High School. So I'd like to welcome them. Oh, Mahadi, how are you? Good. I hired this lady. Wait a minute. There we go.
Good evening, respected Mayor, City Council, and the community members. My name is Mahani Tierra, and I teach history at Los Banos Junior High. I want to thank Mr. Volalta, I had it on my speech already, who had faith in me and gave me a chance to teach in this community in 1999. I want to thank Mrs. Brazil as well for giving me a chance to teach advanced history. I enjoyed having all the wonderful students in my class. All of my advanced students worked very hard on this community guide, which included different categories like City Hall, best restaurants, hotels, transportation, education, daycare facilities, etc. I was thinking of ways to get my students involved and learn more about their community. This book can be reproduced or put on the city website so newcomers to town can access these different sources. At this point, I will introduce the following students who will say something about this project. Alex Gonzalez, Carson Breeze will be second presenter, Luis Castellanos, and Serena Gill.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. My name is Alexis Perez Gonzalez, and I took part of making the community guide for Los Banos as well as the rest of the honors history class. We began this project in December. Our goal we set off to do was to help newcomers in Los Banos. I know how it feels to be new in town and not know where to go or where to get help. Besides, we also wanted to find out more about our community. We started off by picking a subject we wanted to do. These subjects varied from the police department to manufacturing business. We had to make the decision on choosing our partners to work with. Once we chose our partner, we were off to discover more about our amazing town of Los Banos. My partner, Matthew Spinkowski, and I chose manufacturing business. We honestly thought that this topic would be a piece of cake, but boy, we were wrong. From phone calls to hours on the computer, we researched from top to bottom on every manufacturing business in Los Banos. Day by day, we kept on learning more about our town. I was surprised because I have lived in this town for 13 years, and yet most of these places I had no idea of. On our portion of the book, we wrote about the business hours, location, owner's establishment, and other things. We realized that this project is much more than just a grade in this class, but a helpful thing for anyone in Los Banos. I believe that now anyone who's new or not can find locations and places in Los Banos. This book can save hours and time for everyone. We have spent time and effort in making this book, and I'm proud to state this in front of everybody. Thank you, and I'll pass you to the next presenter. Have a nice evening.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. My name is Carson Breezy, and I'm here to talk to you about the community project that we did in our advanced history class. As you know, the community project was written as a guide to our small world here in Los Banos, but that's not what I'm here to talk to you about. I'm here to tell you a little bit about my section of the project. My partner Shelby Perry and I wrote about the police department and what the people in that department do for this city. We both knew a fair amount before we dove into this project, but we had only scratched the top layer. The hardest part of this project was finding things out about the establishment and growth of the department. I met with the police chief where I learned a lot about the positions that help this department function. He told me a lot about the jobs that are essential to the stability and continuation of the safety in our town, positions like police officers and dispatchers. The dispatchers are the ones that answer the 911 calls and relay those calls to the officers who, in turn, respond to the call and do the best that they can to help the situation. The section of the police department I didn't know much about was the K-9 units. I knew almost nothing about what they did, so it was fun to learn about them. They're usually brought in to help find drugs and sometimes are sent to catch a runaway criminal. I also learned that there are various other ways that you can help the police department out. One of the main ways to help out the police department is by becoming a volunteer. Volunteers have many different jobs that they could, like archiving documents, maintaining department drug files, helping out at DUI checkpoints and special events throughout town. They can also get assigned to help out at the animal shelter, where they would tuck in animals and open up the shelter on Saturdays. You can also help by volunteering with PAL and helping out with girls softball, junior giants, flag football, Cops for Kids, and sober graduation night. Overall, learning about the police department was really fun, and I think everyone will enjoy the community project that we have made for you.
Good evening, everyone. First off, I would just like to thank our mayor and city council members for having me here. I would also like to thank Mrs. Tiara and my partner Patrick Nunes for helping me complete this wild adventure. But anyways, back to business. My name is Luis Carlos Castellanos, and my subject for our community guideline is elections and representatives. Many of you already know about how our town's elections work, and honestly, I thought I did too. But actually, there was a lot of information that I didn't know and should have. I was really glad after I finished this project, not because it was finally done, but because of all the information that I had learned. Recently, an exciting event has happened in my life, and the information that I found has actually proved to be useful. But I'll explain that later. For now, I would like to state some of the most important information that me and my partner learned. For those of you that don't know, most of the elections aren't handled by the city of Los Banos itself, but instead by Merced County. Before I started this project, I thought that it took a long and hard process just to become a registered voter. As it turns out, it's not. There are many places where a person can become a registered voter. These places include, but are not limited to, all departments of motor vehicles, Los Banos City Hall, the actual office in Merced, and last but not least, online. Most, if not all, polls are open between 7 a.m. and 8 p.m. The polls are very easy to understand as they regularly come in English and Spanish. Unfortunately, many people still do not vote. The reason for this is because teenagers that finally reach adulthood or turn 18 simply do not care or even bother to vote. This is where Barbara J. Levy, the Registrar of Voters for Merced County, comes into the equation. Her responsibilities include providing vote information, recruiting poll workers, and filing candidates that are running for office. Basically, she makes the teenagers care. That's pretty much it, but before I finish, I want to tell you about the personal experience. My aunt/godmother has decided to move to Los Banos to find a bigger home for her ever-growing family. With this info, I hope to educate my aunt and show her how to vote here in Los Banos. Just as this information aided me, I hope it will aid her as well. Thank you.
Fellow council members and citizens, thank you for having us here today. My name is Serena Gill, and I am here to talk about a project our class has been working on for the past year. The project is a community guide for newcomers to Los Banos. Our class started by getting to partners and then choosing a subject to research. Subjects included human resources, which my partner and I chose, education, religion, and law enforcement. The next step was research. Research meant calling the business, asking them how many employees they had, what they did, when they were established, etc. After typing and editing our final draft, the last step was up to Mrs. Tiara. Her task was to put the guide in an order that made sense and to get it put into book form. When my partner and I first started researching human resources, neither of us really had an idea of what it was classified as. Now we do. Human resources has a lot of categories: welfare, rehabilitation services, social security, family and children services, social services, health, child abuse and neglect, homeless assistance, and Red Cross. These categories are what we researched. Before this project, I didn't think our county would have many homeless people. However, now I know that the Merced County has 760 homeless people, including 21 children, based on the 2014 homeless count and survey. Most buildings that are included in the human resources categories are located in Los Banos, which surprised me. Living in this town my whole life, I never noticed the West Side Family Center or WIC program. After the hard work everyone in this class put in, I believe the outcome was worth it, beyond worth it even. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the 2014-2015 Los Banos Community Guide. Thank you for listening.
First,
Thank you. I had more volunteers, but I had to cut it down to 4. We had to draw names, but a lot of kids were really potential speakers tonight. But I really want to thank, and if Ms. Brazil can come here so we can present this community guide that we put together to you and the council member.
For the record, I had nothing to do with this. All the work was done by the students and Ms. Tiara, so I do want to thank the students and Ms. Tiara for the time that they put into this project.
Here's it all. Thank you. I just put it together.
Junior high students, thank you again so much. Thank your partners. Thank you again so much for coming and presenting this document to us. And thank your partners who assisted you in this project and working on this project. And as time permits, if you would like any one of the 5 of us to come, and we are available, we would love to come to your classroom and answer questions for you about the city and what our roles are as we see them. So it's a personal invitation. We'd love to have you. Junior high students who just, well, I personally, after all the years I spent at a junior high school, it's a wonderful age. And tonight it just confirms or reconfirms that how just mature and well-speaking this group is, and what a great job you did in your presentation. So I just personally want to thank you, as I know the rest of the council would, and we are at your disposal. Thank you again for the time and effort and all the work that you put into this. Thank you. Okay. Now for our last presentation, it's Trash Talk and Merced County Regional Waste Authority presentation. So Brooks, would you come forward?
Thank you very much. I knew that would clear out the room and talk some trash. I'd like to talk to you all just about a few changes that the Solid Waste or the Regional Waste Authority has made over the last couple of years, and some of the specific things that are happening over at Billy Wright Landfill, which is the one that y'all probably frequent. Some of the numbers are going to be small, so I'll try to tell you what those are, but I know you have the screens there in front of you, so you let me know if you can't read them. The Billy Wright Landfill is off Billy Wright Road, and you can see it, the clover leaf in the corner off the 5 there. So it's just a few minutes outside of town. The site is 150 acres. What we can build on it as far as landfill goes is 102 acres, so pretty much we'll maximize the life of the site, be 66 years. We average about 160 tons per day of waste coming into the site, and we have 5 full-time employees there currently. And the site is open 6 days a week, so you can see it's pretty much a thin crew over there. Anytime somebody's on vacation or sick, one of the supervisors typically has to come over from the Highway 59 site to cover. The other site that we operate is over in Merced. It's a little larger. It's a 600-acre site. We take in about 900 tons a day, and we have 25 employees at the site. And I wanted to tell you, you hear a lot of misinformation about landfills today. A lot of contamination happens from landfills, but those are unlined landfills back in the 70s, 60s, 70s, where businesses did not have to dispose of their hazardous waste properly. They could take it to a landfill, and then the landfill didn't have a liner system. Modern sanitary landfills generally have no migration issues from the air, water, or soil, and are fairly completely safe today. And I wanted to mention that the reason that we had to make the changes primarily was because of the deficit that we had. Our operating budget, our revenue was typically about $9.6 million. Now this is of June 30th, 2013, and I started July 1st. And I want to remind you, none of the fees that we take in are taxes, it's user fees, so it's people that have waste to dispose of come to the landfill. There's not a tax based on housing or residence or population or anything like that. And then our expenses were about $7.1 million. So generally it looked like we were making $2.5 million a year. But every day you take in 1,000 tons of waste, you're consuming 1,000 tons of capacity. You've got to replace that. You're giving up your inventory every day, so you've got to build more. And so to talk about that, and then we also had debt. We had a bond that was executed in 2007, and the payment on the bond was $2.6 million, and we owed about another $1 million a year on some old equipment leases. So if you take the $2.5 million minus the $3.6 million, our recurring deficit was $1.1 million. And then about replacing the airspace or the capacity, we needed to put about $1.5 million a year for expansion, $600,000 for new equipment, because the average age of our fleet was about 9 years old. And then the closure of the landfill, you have to close it and monitor for at least 30 years. So we needed about $250,000 a year put aside for that. So essentially we were operating at a $3.5 million deficit every year. So we needed to make some major changes. And this just illustrates that point. From 2009 to 2013, we had rate increases of about 5% a year, and still we're in the red. We were losing money every year, and we were not putting any money aside. It was just trying to make the bond payment. We were not able to capture any additional revenue. And partly it was due to the economy. You can't see the numbers there, but just rest assured that the volume of waste we're getting was the same as it was in 1998. So in other words, even when we had this nice peak in 2005 and 6, it dropped right back down. So to tell you how important volume is, our operating costs typically is about total cost with everything would be about $11 million a year. If you get on 100,000 tons, you have to charge $111 a ton to make it. If you get in 200,000 tons a year, it drops to $55 a ton. And if you get 300,000 tons a year, which is where we are now, the cost drops to $37 a ton. So the more tonnage you take in, the cheaper it gets. Yes, sir.
I'm sorry. With the tonnage, the increase, is the cost for replacement. I believe that's the cell replacement part. That's what's taking up. I got echo mic. The cell replacement, that's to replace the space that you're taking up. So that 300 tons per year, when it goes down to 37, that's still figuring in to that price that you're now going to be replacing, one unit at the 100,000 versus, let's say, 3 units of space on the 300,000. Does that make sense? Am I making sense? So if you let's say that $1 million a year in cell replacement is for 100,000 tons. And the cost is $111 per ton. But if you go up to 300,000 tons a year, you're going to be taking up 3 units on that cell replacement. So let's say it's $3 million a year. Is that calculated? Because it seems...
Are you saying that the faster you fill it up, the more money you have to put away?
Exactly.
Yes.
So then...
But we were using, and I'm not getting too much into that detail, but I'll cover it a little bit, but we were filling up the landfill. We were covering the garbage every night with soil, dirt that we moved from the site. And now we don't do that. We use alternative daily covers and tarps, and so I'll get into that a little bit. So we're conserving the airspace. In other words, we were filling up half the landfill with dirt, and now we're not. So even though we're taking in more garbage, we're not filling up the landfill any faster than we were. Does that make sense?
I could interpret, does the $37 cover all your operating expenses?
Yes.
Okay. Is that what you wanted to know?
That and the amount of space that you're taking up. That's covered in that $37.
Correct.
Thank you.
So some of the changes we made were easy, and some of them were a little more difficult. So I wanted you to read that slide just because I like the quote so much. But we haven't eaten all the frogs. We're still eating some. We've made some big changes. We're still making little changes. We haven't caught everything. But here's just some of the big ones, and here's some of them are really obvious. We used to charge $19 a load. So a customer would come in and they knew it was all you can eat, basically. I'm only going to pay $19 regardless of how much garbage I bring in. So everybody brought in really overloaded trucks. And it was just every other vehicle, it seemed like. And they were taking up more than $19 worth of space in the landfill. So we needed to charge them based on volume. So we had scales to weigh everyone, and we just asked everybody to start weighing and realized 60% of the customers were more weight than they were paying for. And so we changed it, and so we're generating about $125,000 a year in revenue more just from weighing the customers with the scales we already have. The other one that was kind of obvious was the scale is about 20 feet away from the window where you have to pay. So the driver gets out of the vehicle. Then when they weigh out, they're back in their vehicle, so we're losing the weight of the driver on every transaction, which doesn't sound like much, but if you do a 175-pound person 90 times a day times 300 days a year, it's a lot of money. It averaged up to over $90,000 a year we were losing just because we weren't getting the body weight of the driver. They were getting a discount. Another thing we did is the supervisors used to drive the trucks home every night. And so I just split the difference of the fuel and the wear and tear on the vehicle, but it's a lot more than this if you do the 56.5 cents a mile on the trucks. And then another thing we did, the picture doesn't come out very well, but that's just a pickup truck with the prior lifts when we were covering every night with dirt. And at the top of the truck, that's the top of the lift. So we put 6 to 7 feet of garbage in and then 2 to 3 feet of dirt on top of that every single night, 6 nights a week. And we had to have the manpower and the equipment to move the material. And that's what consumed up a huge chunk of our airspace every day. And then we switched to a taller lift. They're now 23 feet high, so we went from 6 feet to 23 feet. And we use no soil at night. We just use contaminated green waste, and then we put tarps on top. And so we're not consuming any of that area. And then the other advantage of using the green waste as an alternative cover is that material rots and decomposes over time, so it's going to shrink in volume, whereas the sand and the soil never change. So just, again, you can't see the numbers, but our diesel fuel usage the month before I started was 12,800 gallons. And in 4 months, we had gone to 8,000 gallons. So we saved 4,000 gallons a month times $3.50 a gallon, which was $16,000 in 1 month, each month, in fuel savings. And I won't mention the other numbers, but they're similar. And then because we changed the way we were operating, we needed less equipment. We still have spares, but these were spares upon spares. So we sold 16 units that we did not need, did not use. And then some of the other changes were composting. We typically did the traditional windrowing process. Almost all commercial recyclers do that in California. And we get paid $10.50 a ton. That's what we're charging. But we knew it was costing more than that. And in 2013, we had a professional company come in and do an estimate of the true cost of composting. And it was $31 a ton at Highway 59 and $41 a ton at Billy Wright. So we really needed to change that because obviously no one wants to raise rates, and at the same time we're losing a lot of money composting. So we spent the better part of a year searching for alternatives, places where you could do it more efficiently, and then experimenting with how to do that back at our sites. And so this is the traditional process. That's all the steps. Again, can't see the detail, but there are a lot of steps to it. And also, this is a little out of sequence, but just to show you, we were charging $10.50. Other counties around were charging anywhere from $20 to $40 a ton. The average statewide is closer to about $40 a ton, and we were only charging $10. Yes, sir.
One of the things that was explained to me years ago is that we get diversion credit for green waste. And the state has outlined different methods that are acceptable for green waste in order that can be used at a dump site. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Now, you mentioned the $10.50 a ton, and if I remember right, the airspace that we were using in Billy Wright with 2 to 3 feet of soil every night, our cells were filling up at a quick rate. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay.
Although Billy Wright did use tarps, Highway 59 did not.
Okay. And 59 had used the soil, so it was 2 to 3 feet of soil every day. The green waste is accepted by our state as cover instead of a tarp, isn't it?
Correct.
And the tarps are pretty expensive too, aren't they?
About $10,000 a piece.
Okay.
Yeah.
$10,000 a piece for the tarps. So we're taking the green waste, and the contaminated loads have to go into the hole because we have no choice.
Correct.
Okay. But the green waste that can be used, and if it's not composted, of which we are composting now out at Billy Wright on a limited basis, the rest of it goes as ground cover, therefore saving us airspace, therefore saving us money, therefore not filling up the cell as much. Is that correct?
And you still get diversion credit.
And you
Correct.
still get diversion credit.
Correct.
Okay. Because there was an issue that came up, and there were questions that were asked recently, and basically should our citizens are paying for green waste. And I think our little conversation kind of proves that if we didn't have this, the cost of what it would cost for green waste would be substantially more.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Silvera.
One other question for you. You talk about the diversion credits. What kind of value do you put on those diversion credits? Is there a dollar amount you're associated with that, or what's the value of a diversion credit?
No, the state doesn't give you any rewards for doing what they mandate. They just can fine you $10,000 a day if you don't do what they want.
Okay, very
So
good.
we're avoiding potential fines of $10,000 a day.
Very good, thank you.
So, and I'm sorry that slide is covering it up. I meant to have it phase in. But the traditional composting process is 8 steps, and you stockpile the material, then you screen the material, then you grind the material, then you windrow and turn and rescreen and cure the pile and rescreen and sell. There's 8 steps. And so we saw that one other company in Northern California was reducing it to 5 steps. And so that is a huge amount of labor and time that you're spending that burn 15, 20 gallons an hour of fuel. So we eliminated 3 steps. We're turning with a loader instead of the windrow turner, which is a very labor-intensive machine. The loader is quick and easy. And we screen the materials. The heavy, big, chunky material that doesn't compost is screened out, and we're using that as alternative daily cover. It is a little bit slower, and we get slightly less product, maybe 10%, but we get more ADC, which saves volume in the landfill and saves money overall. So we practiced this for several months over at Highway 59 landfill, seeing that it's working, and so we've just started doing it again over at Billy Wright. But the volume at Billy Wright is very small. We only get about 4,000 tons a year, so we don't have to do it as much. We can use it as cover whenever it is contaminated. And so this is just a photograph of Highway 59 to show you where the material is going. So that's a slope where we're going to be putting garbage the next week. So that interior slope we would line with the green waste or the chunky material that's not compostable. And then the next week the new lift goes right in there. And so you can see the new cell and the old cell, and you're covering up that green waste. But again, it's going to decompose and rot, and you'll get back some of that capacity. So it's saving money, saving airspace, and we're using it beneficially, so the state gives us credit, just like your composting. So we think it's very much the preferred option. And then another problem that we have is this is one of the side slopes, and they're 3-to-1 slopes, so when it does rain, it creates erosion problems, and we have to push the material back up the slopes with the dozer. It's very expensive, time-consuming, and so we've covered the slopes with the larger material. And again, totally beneficial reuse, saves us maintenance costs, prevents dust and erosion, and we get diversion credit without having to fully compost. So there's Highway 59, the cell, and you can see all the brown spots represent where we put the contaminated soil or the larger material or contaminated compost. And that's the $100,000 savings is just in maintenance on the slopes. And we also are taking shredded tires. Shredded tires can be used as cover. And so at Highway 59, we've been taking them from Golden Byproducts in Belico, and then we just found a new customer over Pachinko Pass. I'm trying to remember the name of the town, but it's over the pass, and they were coming over to the valley and taking their material all the way to Fresno, and they are now dropping it at Billy Wright and paying us. So far, they paid us $30,000 to drop off tires, so we're getting paid for the material that covers the waste at night instead of us having to move soil or put the tarps on. Another thing we've done is the Atwater Merced interchange over on Highway 99 had to have a lot of soil brought in, and they were looking at having to haul it from very far away, and the Highway 59 landfill was much closer, and we needed soil excavated. So we arranged a deal where they pay us $1 a yard. So they removed almost 500,000 yards, paid us $500,000, and then we didn't have to spend money moving that soil ourselves. So I would estimate, I just put $1 a yard, but it's probably $2 or $3 a yard of savings or avoided cost for us. So we made those changes kind of based on economics, and then we brought that culture to the employees and said, we need to keep making change and find more savings. So the employees had really taken that to heart. So just a few ideas that they did. We have to collect the gas that comes out of the landfill. And so you have to install a gas collection system. And it's a perforated pipe. It's just a black pipe that's welded together and has holes in it. You bury it in the landfill as you put the layers in, and then you collect the gas. And so we had a quote for a company to come in and do this, and they were going to charge us $300,000 to do it. So our employees said, well, you know what? We can get the same welder, we can get the certification on the class to weld the pipe, and then we can run the equipment and do it entirely ourselves. They actually took the spec list from the consultant, bought the same materials, did it all internally. So this is the process of them, and this is all done in the last 3 months. They dug the trenches, they put in the pipe, we got paid for tire chips again instead of having to buy material, and then put a tarp over it so it wouldn't clog up with sand, covered it up, and so the total savings through 3 months was $262,000, and the employees did all the work without any overtime. And then just some other ideas they had. We had one of the truckers that was hauling the soil out of the landfill for the granite project needed a place to store 5 trucks at night. We said, no problem. We can lease you the space. They pay our electric bill as well. So we get $28,000 a year in revenue. Don't lift a finger. We had a server and generator issue. The server was in one building. The generator was in the other. So when you lost power, you lost your computer system. So the employees rebuilt the server room and just had the server moved over to the building so we didn't have to buy a second generator. And we didn't have to pay anybody to do the construction. And they had to weld racks and move concrete and all kinds of things. Did it all internally. Bought a tire changer because we get tires with rims, and the aluminum rims are worth $25 a piece, and we get a lot of them. People don't have a way to take the tire off. So we were paying someone to remove the rims, and then they got that $25 rim. We put in a tire changer, and after the cost of the machine and operation, we're making about $7,000 a year from the aluminum rims. And then we also subbed out part of a pump and treat system. I won't go into the detail, but saved $30,000 on that. So again, this is just things that the staff did once they saw that their opinions were valued, their work was valued, they started offering up suggestions. So just how did all that work? Well, the tonnage is up, and again, you can't see the chart there, but we've got some importing waste contracts, so our revenues are going up with the tonnage. Because we made the changes, our staff we haven't needed as much labor. Again, much of this was moving soil, but we looked in every area, even in the office. And so when we had 43 employees, now we only have 30. And they're working very hard, so this just illustrates the tonnage. So if you can see 6 and 7, we did 301,000 tons and 289,000 tons, but we have 56 and 57 employees. And if you go down to the bottom, 14, 15, 15, 16, we're doing 292, 298,000 tons. We're doing the exact same tonnage, but instead of 58 employees, we now have 30. So same tonnage, half the staff. And that's just a graph of the productivity. The red area shows the current staff are about twice as productive as the other staff was. So what's the end result in the cash flow? So you saw the 5 straight years we had lost money. In our first full year of the changes, we profited almost $3 million, and we're on track this year to make $3.5 million. So we had lost money 5 straight years, and in 2 years we've got a $6 million, $7 million surplus. So it's gone very well. And so to break that down by site, this is the Highway 59 landfill. It's covering all of its operating costs, plus it's putting away volume expansion capacity, and it still has a, you see 13, 14, 15, and 16, it has 1.2, 1.5, and $1.2 million left over. I'm sorry, the Billy Wright's not up there, but this is Billy Wright landfill. It just doesn't have the same volume. There's less population over here, and to the west you just have the mountains, so you're not getting any tonnage coming over the mountains. And there are several landfills over there that have very competitive tipping fees, so we're not going to be able to import. So it kind of is what it is. It doesn't make money. It's still being supplemented by Highway 59. But the good news is you can see the cost of operating on the total operating expenses, the second line down, we went from 1.57 million to 1.14. To last year, it was $780,000. So we cut the operating expense almost in half at that site. Oh, I did put that.
Go ahead.
So do you have a number that looks at those all together? So instead of separating it out from...
Oh, no, we just have one budget overall.
So what does that budget look like then? So if you take...
That's the one you saw before where we're making money. We're just kind of at the point where we make enough money in time to build the phases we need. And that's the next couple of slides I'll show you real quick. We also refinanced a bond. 2007 bond was going up to 4.8%. We locked it in for the next 12 years at 2.7%. So we're going to save $5.8 million. And this is Highway 59. This is the expansions that we're going to do in the, again, you can't see the detail, but on the left side, the green swath is where we're going to put the next phase, or that's where we had intended to put the next phase. The only problem was it was going to be very expensive. So right there it is. It's going to be very expensive to construct, and we wouldn't have enough money and time to build it. So we're looking at, and here's the phases as they would get put in. We're in A, we would go to B, C, D, E, and F. And in B through F, we'd have to excavate all that material, move it off-site because we have too much, and then put in the liner systems, and again, very expensive. But on the other side of the property, we have 2 hills, Phase 5 and Phase 1 through 4. And basically, they're little pyramids like this. And if you line just the space in between them, you can fill up this entire volume in the middle. So that's what a cross-sectional view looks like. You've got a lot of capacity there. There's a vertical view of it. But basically, if we go with Phase 6B, which was the green area I showed you before, that's going to cost $11.6 million. If we can go with filling that valley, it's $5.1 million. So we'll save $6.5 million over at Highway 59. And similarly, this is Billy Wright. Again, you can't see the detail, but that's the phase that we were in, and we were going to need a new phase in just a couple of years, the way it was originally designed. So we redesigned it to maximize the geometry, and so now it looks like we can spread that out another 6 years, and then we can put another phase to the west, and again, postponing that expense, because we're making $3 million a year every year, and overall, we need about $20 million until the bond is paid off. So we're just trying to catch up, so to speak, and get the money in the bank before we need to spend it and avoid any bonds. So if we can do all this, it looks like we'll be successful. We may still need a rate increase, and that's something we've talked to the board a bit about, that we may have to have a rate increase in the next couple of years depending on the permitting of these two issues. And then we just rebid the recycling contract that will take effect next month, but again, we're going to make more money off that. And we do plan to put in gas collection systems at both sites. And here at Billy Wright, we're going to put in, and we've already applied for a grant to put in an anaerobic digester, compost the waste, make gas, and sell it. And so none of this has been finalized, but if this happens, that would make the landfill last even longer. We'd get more revenue, so it'd kind of be a win-win, and we'd meet our diversion goals. That's it.
Brooks, thanks for coming out for the presentation. I've heard it a couple times. I learned something every time I listen to you. I want to sit in on your evaluation. You're doing a great job. I mean, I've seen it. You started right after I did, and you were one of the first people I remember meeting outside of Los Banos. And I'm just thrilled you're here because the changes you made, just it's working. The one that's comment you just made was about a potential rate increase coming at some point, and that would be countywide, correct? I mean, this isn't a Billy Wright rate increase or a 59 increase. This would be a countywide if such a beast was going to happen.
Correct. We're all in the same boat.
Right. I just want to make that clear because I don't. Yes. I think sometimes we, start to overthink things sometimes, and I just want to make it real clear that if there ever was an increase, it would be countywide.
Correct.
Okay. Very good. And keep doing what you're doing. Very impressed.
It's a team effort.
I know.
I appreciate the support.
Right. Very good.
Well, thank you for going over the numbers. And the mic's not on? Okay. Anyway, thank you for going over the numbers. Very much appreciate your time coming over here. And to our citizens, it is what it is. The nearest landfill is 59, and that's what, 45, 50 miles from here by the time we one way?
40.
Yeah.
Yep.
Somewhere around there. So we have to have a landfill on the west side. Trucking garbage over from one site to the other is, I don't think, is an option. And I'm hoping that you'll be able to find more revenue at Billy Wright, and as the gas processing goes in, it will be a lot better for us. At one time, I can remember Jerry and I 10 years ago, we were worried about Billy Wright filling up because of all the garbage that was going in, and we were worried that we weren't going to have enough space, and if it wasn't permitted, remember that, Jerry? And if it wasn't permitted, that Billy Wright would have to close because it was essentially full. And now 10 years later, we're saying we're looking for more trash to go into our landfill, and we've had it permitted for many more acres. So, I think sometimes you kind of get what you want, and then you're not happy about what you got.
Well, and some of the neighbors have offered to sell us their land. So it can be expanded from what I could tell.
Okay. Well, right now we've got a usable facility, and thank you for keeping it viable. Mr. Silvera?
Yes. Thank you for coming out. You definitely cleared up a few questions for me. I like your approach. I really do. It seems like you're working smarter and not always harder, and that's a good thing. And I like that you're taking the approach. We're in this together. You're operating two landfills under one JPA, and you're looking at the big picture. And from the where most of our trash goes to the smaller landfill, I appreciate that, because I think if we're in this deal together is how we're going to get out of it. If we're starting to look at it one versus the other, that's where we're going to have problems. So I appreciate that approach.
And remember that when you do the clean closure of your project that's coming up in the next year or so.
Yeah. Very good. Thank you.
Right here, I want to welcome the mayor of Dos Palos, who's here tonight, who came here probably for this presentation. And so Dos Palos is just another entity that dumps trash into Billy Wright, along with all the county on the west side. So and Santanella too, correct? Santanella dumped it there too. Yeah. And Gustine?
At least a portion, yes.
Okay, a portion of Gustine. So we have a lot of users of Billy Wright landfill and how important it is. So thank you, Brooks, for coming here this evening.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Let's go on to consideration of approval of consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda are considered to be routine and we voted on in one motion unless removed from the consent agenda by a city council member. And Lucy, tonight we have?
Items on the consent agenda are as follows. Warrant numbers 152827 through 153082 in the amount of $1,192,247.37. Minutes for the March 4th, 2015 City Council meeting. Minutes for the March 18th, 2015 City Council meeting. Minutes for the April 1st, 2015 City Council meeting. City Council Resolution Number 5653, identifying the terms and conditions for fire department response away from their official duty station and assigned to an emergency incident. City Council Resolution Number 5654, adopting a revised budget for the 2014-2015 fiscal year as it pertains to expenditures and revenues in the building, community and economic development, and police departments. And the items are to be approved as submitted.
Okay. Do I have any city council member that would like to remove an item from for discussion on the consent agenda? If not, do I have a motion? Mrs. Lewis.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda as submitted.
Do I have a second? Mrs. Stonegrove.
Second.
Motion by Lewis, second by Stonegrove to approve the consent agenda as stated. All in favor? Aye. Any opposition? None carried. Item 8, public hearing. If you challenge your proposed action as described herein in court, you may be limited to raising only those issues you or someone else raised at the public hearing described herein or in written correspondence delivered to the city at or prior to the public hearing. Item 8A, public hearing. To receive public comment and consider extending a development agreement for the villages at Stone Creek 4 subdivision. Item A1, ordinance number 1129, approving the First Amendment to the development agreement relative to the development known as the villages at Stone Creek 4, making certain findings related thereto, and authorizing the mayor to execute said agreement on behalf of the city. And this is a second reading and adoption. And we will go to Assistant Planner Elms.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. So as this is the second reading, I'm going to keep this presentation fairly brief. So just to give you a little bit of background on what this proposal is, it is for the villages at Stone Creek 4. It's an amendment to their development agreement. And their original development agreement was adopted or approved by the City Council July 15, 2005, and it was a 10-year development agreement. So it's to expire July 15, 2015. This covers the Villages 4 area vesting tentative map, which is approximately 126 acres within the Stone Creek area plan. And then it extends the life of the map until 1 year after the development agreement expires. So benefit of this original development agreement, one of the perks of it, was that it extended the life of the tentative map for 10 years, but then the tentative map still has its own life 1 year after the development agreement expires. So that tentative map would expire July 15, 2016 if the council did not approve the amendment for the development agreement extension. So Villages 4, it primarily consists of residential development and it's zoned planned development. So it has this planned development overlay which allows for flexibility in the zoning. This particular development was given that flexibility in zoning, and at the time the council deemed it to be creative and innovative, and it met that criteria. It consists of 309 single-family residential lots. Had a 13.18 acre school site, which the school site has been moved further north to Prairie Springs. And then there are 4 park lots. 2 of those park lots have been developed. So the final maps, there has been a few final maps that have been recorded. There's for 93 lots of the 309 lots. And of those 93 lots, 16 units have been constructed and 77 are vacant. And there's 216 lots conditionally approved but not recorded. So that's why it's important, and the city agrees with the request from the developer to extend the development agreement in order to preserve those 216 lots that are unrecorded. So this development agreement extension would extend the life of the map for an additional 10 years. It would amend the language to require the 216 tentative lots to form or annex to a lighting and landscape district for the proportionate share to the special benefits the individual lots receive. So this will help this particular landscape and lighting district, and that each of those lots that are undeveloped and unrecorded will then pay their proportionate share, not just a flat rate that the rest of the development is paying. So public hearing notices were published in the Los Banos Enterprise and mailed out to the 300-foot radius on April 3rd, 2015. And the Planning Commission also recommended approval of this particular extension on March 25th, 2015. As of today's date, I have not received any comments. So with that, staff is asking that the City Council adopt ordinance number 1129. And that concludes my presentation, and I'm here to answer any of your questions.
Okay. Council, do you have any questions at this time? Okay. Let me open the public hearing now. I would like to open the public hearing on ordinance number 1129. If anyone has any, would like to comment on the ordinance that's up for adoption. Not seeing or hearing anyone, I will now close the public hearing, bring it back to council level, and we have two actions. We have the waiving of the second reading and the adoption of the ordinance as submitted. Okay, Mrs. Lewis.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I would like to make a motion to waive the second reading of ordinance number 1129.
Mr. Silvera.
I'll second.
Motion by Lewis, second by Silvera to waive the reading of ordinance number 1129. All in favor? Aye. Any opposition? None. Carried. Okay, Mrs. Lewis.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to adopt ordinance number 1129 as indicated.
Okay, Mr. Silvera.
Second.
Okay, motioned by Lewis, second by Silvera for the adoption of ordinance number 1129 as read. Roll call, Lucy?
Silvera?
Yes.
Stonegrove? Yes. Peralta?
Yes. Motion carries unanimously. Okay, let's go on to item 9. Consideration of approval of City Council Resolution number 5656, awarding contract for legal advertising to the Los Banos Enterprise for fiscal year ending in June 30th, 2016, and authorizing and directing the city manager to execute said agreement or execute the agreement. And we'll go to City Manager Kerrigan.
Thank you, Mayor. The recommendation is to award the annual legal advertising contract to the Los Banos Enterprise for the fiscal years 2015 and 16. Just quick background. City's legal advertising contract expires on June 30th, 2015. On March 20th of this past year, or this year, 2015, the city released an RFP for legal advertising. We had one responder. It was the Enterprise. They publish once a week on a Friday, and they have the ability to publish employment classified ads in multiple area publications. There's a 3-day lead time for advertising. The city budgeted $8,800 for advertising in the fiscal year. And again, the recommendation is to award the contract to the Enterprise.
Okay, thank you. Council members, any questions? Motion. Silvera.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve City Council Resolution, hold on, I lost my page. 5656, as stated.
Okay, I have a second. Mrs. Stonegrove.
Second.
Motion by Silvera, second by Stonegrove to approve City Council Resolution number 5656. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? None. Carried. Item number 10. I Street presentation. We'll go to our city manager.
Let's see if I can do this. There we go. Thank you, Mayor. Ice Street presentation. Last year we spent, here we go. The minute I say it. Last year we spent a little extra time on 6th Street. Curb appeal was our main focus. Getting the birds out of the downtown was our main focus. We got a chance to meet a lot of the business owners. We worked with the Downtown Association and the Chamber just to kind of work together as a team, put our efforts together. I think at the end of 12 months, we saw a lot of improvement. The monuments got painted at Pacheco and 6th. There's the banners up. You can see some pictures of the irrigation was repaired by Public Works. A lot of the businesses planted their own flowers. I mean, at the end of the year, 6th Street looks a lot better. So what we thought we would do over the next year is put a focus on Ice Street, and it's a multi-departmental effort, including code enforcement, police, public works, and community and economic development. I'll talk a little bit about code enforcement. On March 5th, I believe it was, or the first week in March, they went up and down 5th Street, or Ice Street from 5th to 7th looking for code violations. This is an example of a code violation. You can see all the signage in the windows. You're only allowed to put a sign that takes up 30% of the window space, and this one obviously takes up more. So this was one example of a violation. Like I stated, code went up and down Ice Street, sent out their letters asking for compliance. Public Works is a big player in all this. In this picture, they're painting the curbs at 7th. They repaired the pavers. They were uneven, trip hazards, so they went out and adjusted the pavers. There's a lot of trash. We're going to do some extra power washing, street sweeping 3 days a week, and as needed. The as needed part is parades, events, things like that. We do have carts. We still have them. We've been talking a lot about shopping carts at the council, so I won't spend any more time on that, but I think we're making some good headway there. These electrical boxes, Public Works is repairing them. They light up the trees. They provide electricity for street fairs and events, parades. People have a fascination with damaging them. It's frustrating. It's expensive. It's time consuming. But we will win this war, and we are going to continue to fix the electrical boxes. And hopefully through this program over the next year, we can educate people that they're not there to be damaged. I'll leave it at that. Public Works also takes care of all the street furniture, and that's the benches. We do get graffiti. They get out there and clean those up. You can see the trash receptacle there. They go out there 5 days a week and empty those. So they're out there every day. The community and economic development piece is Stacy, Souza, Elms, Senator Benetti, and I will be out meeting with all the business owners, every single one of them, for a few different reasons. We're going to encourage them to join the Downtown Association. We've had a real good relationship with Penny Glick and Donna Mendez. They've been very active and a pleasure to work with. But what the Downtown Association needs is more members. So we're going to try to reel in some of these folks on Ice Street to work with them. And I mentioned code enforcement going out. They sent a letter, and they actually encouraged the owners to take better care of the area in front of their business, not just the sidewalks, the trees, painting, a myriad of reasons, but we're going to really try to encourage folks to take a little more ownership. The Ice Street vacancy rate is 16%, and that might sound like a high figure. There's only 3 or 4 or 5 vacant spots. I was surprised. I thought there were going to be more. There's a couple at 5th and I, but there's I thought that number would actually be higher, and it isn't. It's actually pretty darn low. And we have weekly walks down there. Friday afternoons, I'll walk to downtown. I'll take Stacy with me. Some weeks when she's not around, I'll take Sandra and walk around, and we'll just make notes. Most of the time we call Public Works and say, here's 10 things we need you to do. But we are out there. I know Public Works is out there every day. Police department, on their patrols, we've asked them to pay a little extra special attention to what's going on Ice Street just to make it safe. And then this is the last slide. On February 2nd, we put a team together and we went into the Lucky Strike apartments with the owner's consent and approval. And we went in to look at and inspected the units for habitability. under the California Health and Safety Code, section 17920.3. And I actually have it here. I'm going to read off a couple so you wonder what the heck we're doing in there. We look for things like the lack of hot and cold running water, adequate heating, electrical lighting, deteriorated or inadequate foundations. We looked at the wiring, the plumbing, the mechanical equipment, deteriorated, crumbling, or loose plaster, things like that. The team involves code enforcement, police, fire, building department, community and economic development, and the Merced County Environmental Health Department. We look for safety issues. County Health will go in and look for health issues, and I'm happy to report that the owners of the Lucky Strike took our compliance letter with, it was probably about a page and a half long of items, and they went in and they fixed everything we asked them to fix. Very happy with that. So now what we're going to do tomorrow and Friday, May 7th and 8th, is we're going to go back to the remaining units. I have 8 property owners, 76 units. We're going to go tomorrow and Friday. We're going to go back to the remaining 7 units, and I'm going to say 55 to 60 units. Stacy, 76. So there's 8 left. 8 property owners was.
Wait, Stacy. Let me get this for you.
I just want to get this right. So
okay, go ahead.
7 property owners. Left to inspect with 76 units.
Minus 9. I included the Lucky Strike property owner.
Now that I've totally confused everyone.
I know.
Okay, so it's 7 property owners that we're going to go inspect. Yes. And it's 76 minus 9.
Yeah.
67 units left. And we're going to do the same thing. We've invited the enterprise to come along so they can see what we're doing. And the idea is just to make the place safe and livable. Some of these units are a little angry. I'll describe it that way. I did walk through the Lucky Strike. I have not had a chance to walk through the remaining 7 property owners and their units, but I can say that the Lucky Strike was pretty angry. And I'm really looking forward to going my follow-up tour, but I've been assured that they've completed all the work that we asked them to. So I think that's the last of it. Yep, that's the last of my presentation, but I guess in summary, we really want to put I Street from 5th to 7th kind of under the bright lights for the next year, puts just a little extra time and effort into it, and hopefully we can make a difference. I don't think if we don't spend this time, we can't expect change. We're not asking for any budget adjustments. We're just going to focus on it a little bit more, like we did on 6th Street, and it worked on 6th. So I'm really looking forward to seeing some improvements. A lot of curb appeal stuff, but what you won't see be all the conversations that we have with the business owners, the bar owners, just the regular 8 to 5 business owners, and we're going to try to get them more engaged and involved. So if you have any questions, we can take them. Otherwise?
Well, you touched on shopping carts, but I'll expand upon it a little bit. And if the enterprise would do us a favor and maybe publish an article about who to call for shopping carts. I know I've seen a lot less in town, Mark, thank you. And if you see shopping carts, we don't see all of them, but if you see them, call Public Works. They will send someone out, not a city worker, to pick them up. So when I'm driving around, if I see a shopping cart, I will call them. And then the next thing I know, that shopping cart is gone. They have a person that comes here 3 or 4 days a week, and they collect the shopping carts, and to my knowledge, I think they collect all of them, don't they?
About 80%.
About 80?
Yeah. The ones that aren't on contract will be.
Okay, then we'll have to make the... Okay. And if we're seeing a lot of those, and we need to make changes with those people too, that are not complying. But I have to tell you that the shopping carts are a lot less around town, and before it was kind of rampant, and so I'm hoping those 20% of those people that are not complying, that maybe this council needs to make changes for those 20%, and the others get on board to have to pay for this service. So this is long overdue. Thank you, City Manager and Public Works and Code Enforcement and Fire for inspecting all these places. If we want to clean up Los Banos, we need to do it one building at a time. It's been a long time since these buildings have been inspected. They need to continue to be remodeled so they're habitable for everyone and provide good living space. So really appreciative of what you guys are doing and all your efforts. And if there's any suggestions or improvements that we can make, we sure want to hear those. So with that, council members, do you have any comments at all? Okay, good. Thank you. All right, let's go on to item 12, council member agenda request to see if there is a priority consensus to have staff expend time on the issue to hear it at a future meeting. Request from council member Cervera. Did I? Oh, 11. Oh, advisement of public notices. Stacy, I just skipped you. I am so sorry.
It's okay, Mr. Mayor. So we only have one public hearing item. It's a vesting tentative parcel map for Village Green. And what it is they are going to be subdividing approximately 0.38 acres, which was a neighborhood park. And they are going to be dividing that into two parcels for single-family residential homes. And the city, in turn, will be getting in lieu fees. We would have been paying back the developer for the park, and instead we'll be getting in lieu fees for the park and then able to apply those regionally amongst the city. So we felt it was a benefit, and we're going to be entertaining this tentative parcel map on Wednesday, May 13th, 2015. The Planning Commission will be reviewing it that night.
Okay, that's it? Thank you. All right, now let's go on to 12. Council member agenda requests. To see if there's a majority consensus to have staff expend time on an issue and to hear it at a future meeting. Request from Council Member Silvera for discussion and consideration as to if the city should pursue creating drought-tolerant landscaping standards and policies. Mr. Silvera.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. So in light of the fact that we are in the fourth year of drought, and correct me if I'm wrong, Stacy or Mark, the way I understand it is now to have a certificate of occupancy on a home, the front yard has to be landscaped. Am I correct in saying that?
Yes, it's a criteria of most of the development agreements. They need to be, at least the front yard needs to be landscaped. The rear yard can stay vacant.
Okay, thank you. So one of the things that I was thinking about is that, you know, does council want to have a discussion to at least consider making that an option? And I don't know the legalities of, can you go back and, you know, development agreements that are already done? Could we just friendly suggest to them that it might that we think it's a good idea? Do they tell us no, go pound sand? I don't know. That's up for the attorney to decide. But I want to make it an option. That if you know, because there's people out there that believe in the drought, and I talk to them. I know a neighbor of mine that she saves all her shower water and waters her plants with. I mean, and there's people out there that are serious about drought and serious about saving water. And so I don't know that we're ready to make it, you know, policy that you will put in drought-tolerant landscaping, but I want there to be an option that if homeowners want to put in drought-tolerant landscaping, that they have that option. And I don't know if that is an option right now. So I'd like to, I would think as a homeowner, if I want to put in drought-tolerant landscaping, I could. But is that an option for the builders to offer that as part of their agreement? And then, or should we be suggesting to them that, you know, we need to go to a certain percentage of drought-tolerant landscaping? So these are all questions that I would like to see have staff start looking into it, maybe looking into what some other cities are doing with it. And, you know, I don't know that we're ready to take a formal action, but at least have that discussion and, you know, maybe come back with something that the council wants to move forward with.
Just to jump in there, I know Mr. Vaughn is working on a water efficiency ordinance for Mark and I. And so this will be probably a part of that process that we'll bring back to you with some ideas, some solutions that we have, and then possibly talking about landscaping and incorporating that into the water efficiency ordinance.
And then I guess in part of my discussion or my request tonight is to have that discussion on what are the standards. You know, I don't know that we're ready to go to Phoenix, Arizona, you can only put cactus and rocks. But I know that there's a lot of options out there that are, you still have, for lack of better words, it's greenery. You still have shrubs in your yard. You still have a very beautiful, presentable yard that is, I'm not a big fan of rocks and cactus, but so if we had some kind of standards that they could follow, maybe it makes it a little bit easier for them.
Green rocks.
There you go.
Yes, Mark.
I think that's a really good idea. Our requirement is landscaping in the front yard. It doesn't specify lawn. And KB's thinking about coming back in, and they talked to me about it, and I suggested you might look at, half the green space, pull it away from the hardscape, the driveways. That way you can put the bark or whatever you need there. But it is a rule. The governor's mandate was that it had to have the low-flow sprinkler heads, and you had to water your shrubs with drip irrigation. You couldn't sprinkle them like a lot of people were doing. So there is some rules in effect, and I've suggested to several people, either you do this in the neighborhood, you can just make that green space a little smaller, But we can look at all that. I mean, it's still landscaping the front yard without being deserty, I guess, is the way you described it. But
yeah, and so I guess at the end of it is just to see if if a majority of council will agree to at least have staff go down that path a little bit, because I think I guess the biggest thing for me is just to have a standard. I don't come up with some minimum standards that would be tolerable to us. So that's what I have, Mr. Mayor.
Yes. Well, I think it's a great idea. I mean, you're talking some sort of landscaping, right? Oh yeah. Okay. All right. I like the idea. Mrs. Lewis.
Thank you. Mark had indicated that the state is mandating irrigation changes, and for me, that's something that I think would be more tolerable. I've seen some of the xeriscape landscaping, and we've had companies in our town that have put it in, and what the tendency is to sparsely plant things and then put a whole lot of rock out there. And you sort of defeat the purpose of drought tolerance, because rocks, when you're putting out a lot of rocks on landscaping, it just dries the environment up even more. I'm not saying that I'm totally against drought tolerant landscaping. I'm saying that at this particular point we need to find more ways of enhancing the type of irrigation equipment that is allowed to be put in homes, and there's so much more out on the market now than there was even just 2 or 3 years ago, as far as water saving with drip and even with pop-up heads. So as far as landscaping is concerned, trees, bushes, grass, all of that keeps your environment cool down. It also lends to eating up pollution in the air. So I don't want to do away with our green space in our homes altogether. Perhaps limiting it, I could go for that. But as far as a lot of bark and rock and stuff like that, it can end up being messy, and people have a tendency not to care for it after a while. So if we're looking at changing landscaping or making recommendations for some other type of landscaping, it has to be something that's going to be densely planted so that you don't have a yard that's going to look disproportionate to the rest of the community. So I would be more in favor of the type of irrigation products that our developers are putting in the new houses that they're planning. And there's so much more out there now. You can even put underground drip irrigation for your lawn so that you don't have your spray going all over the street and all over your sidewalk. So that's kind of how I look at it. And Scott, your suggestion is very good. But I think right now, before we jump too far into it, is to look at the type of irrigation that's going to go down and maybe limit the green space just a little bit. Thank you.
Yeah, well, you'll bring all those ideas to us. Yeah, all those things will be incorporated of what Mrs. Silvera and Mrs. Lewis would like, and just kind of a match of both. I forgot what I was going to say. No, just left. Mrs. Stonegrove, any comments?
No.
Okay.
I think it's a good idea to bring it back, as Stacy kind of described, as part of the other thing that she and Bill are working on, and see what the ideas are and kind of go from there. I don't have a problem with that.
Okay, wonderful. So I guess we're going to need a motion. Mr. Silvera, would you like to make a motion then? Good on? Okay.
There we go. Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to give staff direction to bring us back information regarding the items that were discussed up here tonight. Is that clear enough?
I think so. They'll take it from there.
Okay.
Do I have a second? Stonegrove?
Second.
Okay, motion by Silvera, second by Stonegrove to direct staff to bring back ideas that would incorporate some drought-tolerant areas, and also to maybe, as Mrs. Lewis said, to cut back on the green space but still maintain front yard appearance with green areas. So I don't know if we could state it any better, but the council will come back and let us know. All in favor? Aye. Any opposition? None. Carried. Okay. Let's go on to item 13, City Manager's Report.
Thank you, Mayor. I have 3 quick items. One, I want to thank Bill Vaughn for coming to our council meeting tonight. He was at the City Attorney's conference in Monterey today, drove back for the meeting. He's going to finish, and he's going to drive back to Monterey so they can finish up on Thursday and Friday. But Bill, thanks for coming. Appreciate it. The Public Works, Mark, I'm going to call Brian Elms Superstar Employee of the Month. I'm not going to go into why. I think everybody in this room knows. But Brian's a star, and I want to recognize him tonight. And the last thing is the fair. Councilmember Silvera's on the board. I want to congratulate him, Ron Brandt, all the workers. It was absolutely fantastic. I was unable to go over in the mornings. I typically go over in the mornings when they raise the flag and open the fair, but I had jury duty on, well, every day, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, so I wasn't able to go get the cinnamon rolls or do any of that. And I was able to go over there Saturday night. I did go over to eat the barbecue from the Dos Palace guys, but the line was so long, I turned around, and I have to say this, whoever brought the guy in that makes the bacon cheeseburgers stuffed with macaroni and cheese is an utter genius, because it was phenomenal. So have him back next year, and congratulations to everybody. It was really well run. We had a ball. I try to go as a resident and not looking for stuff. I just try to go have fun, and I'm telling you, my wife and kids had an absolute fantastic time. So please pass that on. I will, but I know you see all those guys too. So that's all I had.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a reminder for everyone that National Day of Prayer is this Thursday here at City Council Chambers at noon. And to also send my condolences to Pauline Young in the passing of her husband, Dean Young. He was a fighter in Merced County for many, many years, and served as the president of the state muster, I think it was, for quite a while. And I sat with him on the Arts Council, and he will truly be missed. He was a very kind person. His services will be also Thursday in Dos Palos, and I believe the visitation is at 10 o'clock. I believe the name of the mortuary is Fierro Family Mortuary, and the service is at 11 o'clock. Michael, our city, our mayor has already mentioned about the carts, and I've seen a large improvement of shopping carts not being on our streets here in Los Banos. So thank you to our public works staff and to the company who is picking up the carts. I've just seen a few around here and there. And if you do see those carts, you can dial 827-8062 and leave a message with our public works staff, and they will take care of that for you. Habitat for Humanities, this coming Friday and Saturday, starting at 8:30, is going to start working on a new project. And generally they have women come out who are interested in learning about construction and participating in the beginning cleanup project. The new project is going to be at 537 M Street. So any female who's interested in coming out to join in learning little basic things about operating a drill or cutting down trees, it's a lot of fun, it's a lot of work, but there's some worthy families who are going to be able to have a home at some point, and this is always the opening event for the construction or reconstruction of these homes that Habitat for Humanities has acquired to help another family. I'd like to make some comments in regards to the people who came forth this evening and spoke about animal control. It's a real passion that I have for our community. And it's been a concern for me since I've been a council member and even before I became a council member. Some of the things that I've heard is that people surrender their animals without being charged. And also people are coming, from what I'm hearing, out of town who do not live in Los Banos, who are not residents of Los Banos, surrendering their animals because they know that we don't charge a fee to do so. We don't have a breeder's license. Most communities, if you're not a shower and breeding dogs for show, most communities allow you to have what is called a limited breeding license, and you can breed only once, maybe twice a year, and you will have to pay a fee for that breeder's license. And in the selling of your animals, your license number has to be on the receipt to the purchaser of your animal. Spaying and neutering upon reclaiming your animal. This is one of the prominent ways that we can control the number of animals that are just running loose and breeding, or people breeding their animals, and they pick them up, they somehow or other get out and end up at the shelter, and they pay a fee to pick up their animals, but those animals have not been spayed and neutered. That's just something for me that is unacceptable. And just as a side thing, which I've thought about, is that children are they're a catalyst to their parents. They learn things at school, and they bring them home, and they teach their parents, Mom and Dad, you shouldn't do this. You can't do this because of this reason, and this reason. And I think with some public education in our school system, whether our city staff educates a particular person or a group of people within our school system to help educate those children about spaying and neutering and caring for animals properly, and not just having an animal because you think it's cute when it's a puppy or when it's a kitten, but then when it gets grown, you don't want the responsibility of caring for them anymore. Then you just dump them off at a shelter, or you dump them off in the street somewhere, and this animal has no home. We do need some regular hours. Jason Martin is just an incredible gentleman. And don't take this as a negative, but I kind of akin him to a Tasmanian devil. He's just all over the place trying to accomplish everything that he can. But he's only one person in our department, only one person. And we do need another animal control officer, as our chief said at our last meeting. And we do need another staff person to help do paperwork in our animal control office. There are state fundings that we're missing out on because we can't complete the amount of paperwork that needs to be done for those funds to come to the city of Los Banos. By not charging people who are negligent with their animals, those are funds that we're missing out on here in Los Banos. So by virtue of that, These are funds that we could acquire to help fund those positions that we need in our animal control department. I've looked at our animal control codes for Turlock, San Jose, and Stockton, and I've spoken to the directors of animal control department in Turlock as well as the director of animal control in San Jose. And we are behind in what we have as far as codes are concerned. I kind of look at it, if you want to look at it as the police department has all these federal laws, state laws, local codes that we impose on them to enforce, and they can't enforce every single law, but the laws are on the books as a tool for them. And we need to have that same process for our animal control department, whereby those laws are on the books, whatever they are, for state requirement, for local requirement, so that our code enforcement officer has the tools that he needs in order to do his job. We're not trying, I'm not suggesting to make his job more difficult, but to give him the tools that he needs so that we can move forward. I'd also like to recommend, I see they've gone for the evening, that our local newspaper, the Enterprise, be a partner with the City of Los Banos and run some regular articles in their paper by reminding people that when you get an animal, make sure that it's spaded and it's neutered. And importantly also, that your animal is chipped so that if it gets lost or it ends up someplace else, the first thing that could be done is that the animal is scanned to make sure that they can locate the owner again and that it's not adopted out when it belongs to someone else. So those are just some of the points that I'd like to bring out. I'm going to continue to work with our city manager on this process, and I'm hoping that at some point in the near future that we will be able to get another animal control officer, because obviously from the people who have shown up here tonight, it's only a small group of people who really have come forth to show concern. But I've spoken to other people in the community who were not here tonight who have some same concerns, and people who have had issues with animals being on their property that are just strays, and animals that I've seen who get loose by some chance from their owners out of the yard. And I also see animals running in packs. And I've had some small terrier types come in my backyard and maul and kill a cat in my backyard. So these things happen because people in the community sometimes don't have a tendency to be concerned about their animals. And it's an education process. It's an education process. So I'd like to ask that on our next agenda that we have a request for staff to begin to look into this. I don't think we need to be concerned about rewriting a whole bunch of stuff. There are communities out there that have some excellent code enforcement laws on their books, and I'm a believer of just taking somebody else's idea and adopting it so that you're not spinning a lot of wheels and a lot of staff time doing something that's already been well done. And thank you for your time.
Mr. Silvera.
Well, first off, I'd like to welcome Mrs. Stonegrove back to a council meeting so quickly. Congratulations again on your baby. I can't take credit for it, even though I wanted to, but I want to let everybody know that this Friday, May 8th, is the City of Los Banos' 108th birthday. We look at that sign up there. I look at it every time we're in here for a meeting, and our city manager is the one who pointed that out to me, so I want to give him the credit for that. The fair this year just was an amazing fair. Our biggest expense at the fair every year is security, and we're very proud of the fact that in Merced County, that for those 5 days, there is no safer place to be. This year with Sheriff Warnke, who before he was the sheriff, he was our security consultant. He was the guy that was running the security on our fair, and then having the sheriff there and really fine-tuned some stuff. And then so just amazing as far as security. There was no issues, at least inside the fairgrounds, that I was made aware of. Attendance was fantastic. The weather was great. In the evening times on Saturday and Sunday, it did cool down a little bit, but I had really good attendance all week long at the fair. And one of the things that I'm most proud of is you guys know that I do a little bit of auctioneering, and I'm kind of the auction committee chairman for the fair. And this year, I say it every year, the residents of, and when I say, it's not just Los Banos, it's Dos Palace, it's Gustine of Merced County that come to this fair and support our youth. We had 3 sales. We have a replacement heifer sale, which is selling dairy cattle on Thursday night. We have a small animal sale, which sells rabbits and chickens and quail on Friday night. And then the Saturday sale, which is, sheep, pigs, goats, and steers. Altogether, let me start by saying last year was a record sale. We brought into the pockets of our youth, of this community. Last year was $860,000. This year we topped the $1 million mark. Our sales altogether did $1 million and a couple dollars shy of $20,000. $1,020,000 that we did over the course of those 3 sales. I'm blessed. I'm fortunate that I get to be a part of it. I get to stand up there and sell a lot of those animals, but all the work that the people that are around me, my other fair board members, the people, down to the guys that are behind the sale ring pushing the animals into the sale, and most importantly, those kids, those exhibitors, they exhibit these projects. And then last but not least, probably one of the most important one is the folks that come out there and support and donate their money to these kids. It was simply something amazing to be a part of. And I know in California, when it comes to fairs, May Day, we start the fair season. There's not many fairs before us, and we set the bar really high for everybody else to try to achieve. Just another phenomenal year. I was just simply amazed by it. It's $1 million. We sold roughly 600 lots of animals when you count down to the rabbit lots, all the different lots over the course of the 3 days, and we raised over $1 million. It was something magical to be a part of. Next thing, I want to remind everybody again, Monday, June 8th, there'll be a blood drive at the O'Banion Building, and that's Donate for Debbie. It's a memorial blood drive put on by Paul Pereira for his late wife, Debbie. Giving blood is giving the gift of life, so if you can make it out there, and it starts in the afternoon I think it might be it's at 2 o'clock it starts. I will get the date corrected, but I just want to keep reminding everybody, I know it's still about a month away, but get that on your calendar. Another quick thing that happened at the fair, everybody's aware of the tragedy that Los Banos suffered last week with the Bartlett family, and the funeral's tonight, and that's where Mr. Free is at. Just a little side note to it that I got to be part of again was a young man named Alec Barcelos. He raised his market pig, and then this tragedy happened, and all on his own. From his ag teacher told me, with no coaching from nobody else, he told his ag teacher that he wanted to donate all of his proceeds, all what his animal sold for. He wanted to donate to the Bartlett family for funeral expenses, and I believe the number was, when it got all said and done, that pig sold for $52.75 a pound, and that boy, that young man, did a pretty cool thing and donated all that money to a family that is just going through something that nobody should have to go through. So I just wanted to give him a little bit of recognition there. And then my last one, we're asking for watering reduction. I know that fines are going out because my neighbor, right before I was coming to the meeting tonight, said, "Hey, what happened here?" I said, "That's what happens when you water on the wrong day, my friend." He got his fine. So they are out there and they're issuing citations. So you need to remember the watering schedules. You're going to get fined. The warning period is over with. Everybody's been warned enough. If you're not doing the right thing, you're going to get fined, and the fines escalate. The first fine, I believe, was $15. That's what the one he showed me was 15, so that's the first fine, and it goes up from there. And I'm sorry, but I don't feel bad for you if you get fined. We've been talking about this for over a year, and the city, we played nice for the last year and gave a lot of warnings, but we're done we're done with the warning stage. Now it is you're going to get fined, and I'm sorry. It's, you know, there are rules and we have to try to follow them. But that being said, just because you're watering a little bit less, and maybe you're choosing to go with the brown lawn, and that's fine, but that doesn't mean you need to have dead weeds and tall dead lawn. I mean, if you think about it, if it's dead, if it's brown, you mow it one time, it's probably not growing at all. But just because it is dead doesn't mean that you don't need to take care of your yard. I mean, it's an injustice to you, it's an injustice to your neighbor. You know, try to keep your yard nice. You know, it brings up the value of your neighborhood. So, you know, just wanted to pass that out there. Water fines are coming out there. It doesn't mean because, you know, you're going with a brown lawn that you have to have weeds and tall dead lawn. You know, try to take care of it. Try to make it look presentable. Your city will thank you for that, and your neighbors would thank you for that. So that's all I have for tonight.
Thank you. Mrs. Stonegrove?
Thank you. And I also want to take a little bit of time tonight to address the speakers who came during the public forum to talk about the animal control issue. I want to thank you for the work that you're doing, and thank you for coming here tonight. For your compassion, several of you spoke about that. I have 4 rescued animals of my own, and I get emotional thinking about the lives that they had before they lived with us, and I cannot imagine, I really can't imagine what it's like to work with countless numbers of animals like that every day. So I thank you for what you're doing in our community, and I definitely think this is an item that we need to, at the very least, take a look at. They've come with solutions to the issue that we're facing here. Holding breeders accountable in this community is something that I think is really critical. I like to think that the people that are doing that don't realize the impact, the negative impact that they're having. I don't know why they do what they're doing. I like to think that they don't realize the number of animals that are euthanized every year. And if we can do anything to cut back on that number, I think we owe it to ourselves and owe it to the community. So I definitely support looking into any measures that we can take to help in that area. And that's all I have tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, we really should compliment the volunteer force at the animal shelter. And I believe the number was well over 80% of the animals saved in Los Banos, and that was the last number that was given to me. But as they said, as this young lady said, that the population is aging. And we've had all these dedicated volunteers for all these years, and it's time we have new volunteers so the ones that are there now can help instruct the upcoming people who would like to volunteer at the animal shelter. Everything works around volunteerism, and I mean everything. We're asking for more and more because it's needed. There's so many needs out there, not only with animals, but with the different institutions in town that are trying to raise money for good causes. For one of I'll announce in just a minute, but volunteerism is the key to any successful town. And at this point, right now, we're discussing the animal shelter, and we'd love you to get involved. So if it's in your heart and you have a few hours, contact our police chief. He's in charge of the animal shelter, and we'll get you signed up. Next, I believe it is on the 9th, Saturday, May 9th, there's going to be the 2nd annual 5K color run for the cure. There are 2 events for the American Cancer Society. There's a Relay for Life, and then there's the color run. The color run is next Saturday, May 9th from 8 to 10 a.m. and it's at Persimmon Way Park in Los Banos. So if you can show up for that, there's a contact number, and maybe, Rick, could this be added to the community calendar on the web? I mean, not the chamber site. I mean the our TV channel. Okay, I'll give this to you then. Okay. I'll give it to Steve. All right, that takes care of that. So if you can come out for that, that would be wonderful. It's May 9th, and then I believe the following week they're going to have a run for the cure, the Relay for Life. I believe that is the following week for the American Cancer Society, but I'm sure there'll be announcements out there. The junior high, again, I can't say enough good things about these young people. They are very articulate, very well prepared. Their teachers, their principal, all the staff. It takes a lot to become a teacher and to do this day after day. It's a labor of love, and thank you, teachers, for doing that. And again, our mayor from Dos Palos is here, Jerry Antonetti. Wave, Jerry. Jerry was here. We invited him for the presentation on the landfill, and thanks to Brooks, very good job, very informative. And not that, trash is an interesting issue, but it is an interesting issue when you have no place to dump it. So it's like anything else. Everyone assumes, like Public Works, that everything's going to flow downhill correctly, and only people get upset when things don't flow downhill correctly. It's only when things don't work that individuals get upset. So that's why we try with maintenance and preventative maintenance to make sure that we have a great system in place for water, for sewer, for garbage. And when something backs up, people really get upset, and they don't understand why, because in America things work, and Americans expect things to work every day, every minute. So if you have a concern, and if you see, my number one big thing right now is we've been able to eliminate a lot of the shopping carts, and so now we're talking about drought tolerance. Now we're talking about the revamping the animal shelter. These are all important issues. What stops us sometimes is, number one, we need not in a particular order, but we do need more volunteers. We always have to find more money, because anytime we expand a service, it involves funds, and how we can budget for those funds to make sure that we can meet the needs of the expansion of any services. So those will all be part of the discussion. We all want to do things. I don't think anyone up here doesn't want to help the animal shelter, doesn't want to have drought tolerance, doesn't want to conserve water. Everyone wants to do that. It's just finding the personnel power to man all these areas and make sure that we're covering all our bases. So if an idea comes up and the solution is not exactly what you want, it's within our scope of what we can do to solve the problem. Last year, it was the crow issue. It was horrible. All that bird poop all over the streets. The downtown was just filthy. And Mark and Steve took it upon themselves to come up with a method to clean up the downtown with the washing of the streets. And now that's kind of infrequent and the sidewalks, because we've eliminated the problem. But for every good issue that you solve, or good situation that you solve, I got to tell you, the birds moved to another part of town. So we receive calls from where the birds moved. So there are issues. We try and solve the issues, and sometimes the issues get pushed to another area. We will try and work on those, but for one thing, we've improved one area of town which was absolutely just covered with white. Our streets were covered with white bird poop, and now that hasn't happened in a while. So the downtown looks good. Thank you for working on 6th Street, and now we're moving to I Street. And property owners need to take responsibility for the property that they own and to maintain it. Just the same way people need to maintain or care for the animals that they bring into this world, or they don't bother to stop the growth of. So I think we're all on the same page tonight with the issues, and we'll be talking about these later. So with that, we will now adjourn to closed session. Conference with labor negotiators pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6. Agency designated representative, City Manager, City Kerrigan, City Attorney Vaughn, City Clerk, Human Resources Director Maloney, Finance Director Williams, Legal Counsel Tufo, Employee Organizations, Los Banos Police Officers Association, LBPOA, Los Banos Police Sergeants Association, LBPSA, Los Banos Police Dispatchers Community Services Officers Association, LBPD-CSOA, and Los Banos Firefighters Association, LBFFA, and unrepresented miscellaneous employees. Item B, Public Employee Performance Evaluation pursuant to Government Code Section 54957, title City Manager. And item C, Conference with Labor Negotiators pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6, Agency Designated Representative, City Council, City Attorney Vaughn, City Clerk, Human Resources Director Maloney, unrepresented employee, City Manager. If there's any decision to be made, we will then come out and announce that after we return from closed session. Thank you and have a nice evening.